Previously on Animorphs, Marco's dad dumps an entire bucket of paint like a moron, and then some other things happen. Marco keeps his composure as best he can upon learning the identity of Visitor 1. Jake tries to comfort him by saying he knows how Marco feels, even though there's no way he can. Security finally shows up to announce that the Andalites have escaped, and a station-wide search begins. Visitor 1 berates 3's performance, and for a brief moment there seems to be a promise that the Yeerks are actually going to step up their game. Visitor 1 just seems so more confident and serious and dangerous, and she hasn't been on screen for 2 minutes yet. Alas, I'll just tell you up front, we're not going to see a lot of her in this series, nor do we have any of the actual political warfare that the Visitors engaged in the book series. There's no clear division between their forces. There's no scene where Visitor 1 helps the Animorphs escape to make Visitor 3 look bad. Visitor 1 is just some menace in the background who doesn't actually do anything. Still, she doesn't make herself seem like a total embarrassment, so that's a plus.
Enter. Oh, it's you. Well, that must mean there's some good news.
The Andalites have not been captured, Visitor One. I have posted some guards in the ship's engineering and weapons sections to prevent any attempts at sabotage.
Your guards could not contain the bandits in the holding bay. What makes you think they can prevent sabotage?
Marco and Jake wander around the mothership a bit, which is just the same hallway over and over again, filmed at different angles. Eventually they come across the Blade ship, unguarded. I guess Visitor 3 took one's quip about guards personally. That, or he really thought the Andalites wouldn't think of escaping via spaceship. However, Marco is reluctant at the suggestion of trying to fly that thing, and says he won't go without getting his mom first. Cassie and Rachel make it back to the controller room, with no additional guards or security. They really are that confident that they captured all of the intruders in one go. They try to come up with a way to destroy the thing, and TV Rachel suggests something that book Rachel would approve of. Hitting it with giant wrenches. So they break it, which thankfully sets off an alarm. I was going to get worried there. Rachel and Cassie make a run for it and escape. Back on the mothership, Jake and Marco wander around with no clear aim or plan, eventually running into some controllers who give chase, actually firing their weapons this time. Our heroes are chased back to the Blade ship and forced to take off in it. It's not too hard, since the controls are just a refurbished mixing board and is labeled in English and not some alien language. And yes, they managed to pull it off.
Hey, we're out. See? No problem.
Now all we have to do is get home.
I'm all over it.
Yeah, now we can't see anything.
It's space. What is there to see?
Well, the Earth and the mothership, you might want to see those. Marco fiddles with controls and accidentally turns the spaceship around, back to the mothership, and instead of fiddling with more controls, this is the point where the two of them just kinda give up, and wait as the ship casually floats to enemy lines.
Our bioscan has detected 2 life forms aboard the Blade ship.
But it didn't detect that they weren't Andalites? If the biofilters can detect the exact form of life passing through it, then why can't your bioscans? Visitor 3 suggests blowing the ship out of the sky, but Visitor 1 reminds them that they need an Andalite to unlock Elfangor's disc, and these two are as good as captured in that little tin can of theirs. Visitor 3 shoots our heroes with a little "you've lost, just give up" message, which Axe manages to pick up back on Earth. Yes, this entire time Axe has been scanning the thought speak waves or something in search for any sign of Jake and Marco. Gosh, that must come in handy if Axe can pick up Visitor 3's thought speak all the way from outer space. You'd think he could hear him clearly when he's on Earth. If you guess that this ability will never be brought up again, then you're right. So Axe sends a message to Jake and Marco, who try to verbally respond because they're stupid. You know, in the books, Axe's long-range transmission was through the use of technology, and in his first episode, he wasn't actually that far at all. If Axe really could send ThoughtSpeak this far naturally, shouldn't they be, like, shooting messages into the president's head from 3 states away or something? Axe gives them the instructions they need to manipulate the blade ship and send it back to Earth. Oh, there's a bit of a scare because the ship's autopilot has 2 preset coordinates, one to Earth and one to the Yeerk homeworld, and the button to each is exactly identical in a way that would make it confusing to even the Yeerks. Of course, this really shouldn't be a problem, since the moment the Animorphs realize the ship is flying away from Earth, they just press the other button. But you gotta pad out this episode somehow, right? I love how Visor 3 is so upset at this. It's not like they locked the ship's controls or caught the ship with a tractor beam. There was nothing stopping the supposed Andalite bandits from just flying the ship away. If anything, Visor 3 should be a little bit suspicious that it took them that long to fly away in the first place. Marco and Jake return to the barn, the blade ship apparently having crashed into a swamp because the Animorphs having control of a blade ship would have been too much of a game breaker. Marco makes Jake promise not to tell the others about Visor 1, which cues epic orchestra.
I don't want the others to know. You know, about my mom. Not yet.
Okay. When you're ready. Hey. We're gonna get her back, Marco.
I know.
So we close with a scene where Marco's father reveals that he saved the handprint turkey for prosperity and...
Guess what time it is, Ozoniacs? You got it. It's blooper time!
Oh? Oh, what? Oh? Post-episode follow-up. This two-parter had a lot of emotional potential, but just couldn't quite seem to make it. There were some modest attempts at tearjerker moments. Boris Cabrera is really trying, if not always making the mark. And though any of the book fans know already what's going to happen, the reveal of the identity of Visor 1 wasn't completely telegraphed, and was probably a genuine surprise to anyone who wasn't familiar with the story. However, the two major problems here is that a lot of what's going on is really, really silly, and what isn't silly is mind-numbingly boring. On the silly side, we have the morph detectors, Axe's 1,000-mile thought speak, and the blade ship control room. I find it hilarious that the show actually managed to spend some money on some decent spaceship effects, but seemed to make their interiors out of broken studio equipment. So yeah, not a good foundation to build an emotional episode on, but what is there really kind of goes nowhere. Marco gets all righteous about saving his mom, but aborts the idea almost immediately. And Visor 1 really does nothing here to show off why she's a serious threat. Yeah, she pulls rank on Visor 3, but we never really get a sense of power from her. We never see any split allegiances with the Yeerks. We never see any political power plays from both sides. You could have wheeled Visor 3 completely out of the story after the big reveal, and it wouldn't have changed anything. She only shows up once more in this series, and she doesn't do anything in that episode either. Really, this should have been one of the high water marks for this series, but doesn't really live up to that. I can't really say it's awfully bad, but it feels a touch hollow. A tighter script given Visor 3 something to do would have been a vast improvement, but there are more facepalm worthy episodes. In the end, I give The Leader Part 1 and 2 a 4 out of 10.
I cannot hear you because you are not in morph, but if you can hear me, find the Z-Space Harmonics Navigator controls.
Speak English, Axe.
A red button with a squiggly line on it.
I got it. Interior lights deactivated.
Don't touch that button. It will just turn off the lights.